I was training Jill, and she's she turned 79. So she was struggling with one of the ways, and I said, this is the way I want you to look at it. I said, you're gonna go and standing in front of the bar, and you're lifting this 150 pounds. What I want you to think is that behind you is a big rock that you cannot climb. In front of you is a big, huge grizzly bear is coming to get you. So you have a choice to die or go through the grizzly bear. This is your grizzly bear. And she's a PhD doctor, so educated that you can't even talk normal to this lady. And she looked at me and said, I got that. And she went and she lifted. So when you do powerlifting, if you don't push yourself to the limit, then you can do elliptical, do a little bit dumbbell work. But when you're lifting heavy, the result and benefit is gonna stay in your body for 72 hours. And she said that every time I go anywhere, I know that I can lift like that, and my posture and my behavior is totally different. And that is the essence of pushing yourself to the limit. And most people don't do that, and then they don't get good result.
Welcome back to another show brought to you by your friends over at Joovv.com. So today we're going to catch up with a friend of mine, Homi Shivaie. Homi is 69 years young. He's still weightlifting, he's doing deadlifts, he's squatting, he's cleaning, he's doing good mornings. He's an awesome guy. I met him at Gold's Gym back in, it was like 1993, 1994. I've been following him ever since. And one thing we're going to talk about in this podcast, that age is just a number. Homi's, one of his clients is 80 years young. He still has him doing squats, deadlifts, cleans, things like that. Of course, weight and context specific and appropriate. But if you struggle with nagging injuries, for me it's bicep tendon issues, shoulder issues, you got to check out our show sponsor, Joovv.com. Why? Because photobiomodulation is a great tool that can help to accelerate soft tissue injury recovery. Okay, so just like fasting, just like exercise, just like the ketogenic diet, all those therapies work on the mitochondria. Okay, so photobiomodulation or light therapy that Joovv offers is a mitochondrial-based therapy that can help you not only with your hormone levels and optimize hormone levels, but with soft tissue injury recovery. So definitely check them out over at joovv.com/Mike. Again, that URL is joovv.com/Mike. The link is below. Support our sponsor, support your own body's mitochondria, and help to entrain your body's circadian rhythms. I'm holding up the Joovv Go that I travel with, but I have a bigger unit that we use first thing in the morning. So let's cut back to it with Homi, and links to the show notes are below, and links to where you can connect with him as well. If you're in the Bay Area and you want to get into weightlifting or powerlifting, I highly recommend him as a trainer. All right, guys, let's cut back to it.
So my mom has been a member of Gold's Gym, I think since 1992. And I remember when she would go in there, Tony D was teaching the group fitness classes.
Still does.
She still does, and you've been there since 1990.
Yeah.
So I've been watching you for, the better part of 20 years, right? John Scott trained me when I was 14. It was my first personal training workout. He's still training there. Yeah. And what's unique is now, deadlift, squats, snatches, cleans, like powerlifting due to CrossFit has taken off. Yeah. But you've always trained people doing squats, deadlifts, folks with Down syndrome, special needs.
Doesn't matter.
It's amazing. And your oldest client is in their 80s?
87.
That's so cool. So
actually, today he pulled 295, so we have a video of that deadlift.
Wow.
It's
so impressive.
Really, yeah.
Well, let's kind of launch there, because I think there's this perception that deadlifts and squats are, you are loading the spine, right? But I know you really like to have people go through progressions and watch their form. Is there a certain age cutoff, you think, or mobility pattern where some people shouldn't deadlift or squat?
No. I started with this guy at age 80, and he was a runner, never lifted, never put the bar on his back, and now he squat 220 pounds and deadlift close to 300. And his goal is before he turns 90 to break the world record 300-pound deadlift. Go figure.
That's
and
amazing.
Today, the first time he was so upset that he didn't do it, the first time he attempted 295, he got so upset and said, so I went in there and coached him, because on deadlift, sometimes a lifter bend over too much. So if I go and stabilize their shoulder, holding them up, and he lifted like nothing and said, yeah, no, I'm really happy because before I was just going to quit this. And I look at him and said, what's the big deal? Yeah. And it was a big deal for him at age 87 that, oh, if I'm not going to lift the 300 pound, I'm going to quit. And he doesn't take it so like he's into this competition, into his body, and you see his body. I mean, he looks better than me. I mean, amazing. Unbelievable.
Wow. And he just...
So there is, I don't think, personally, I don't think there's age related. And if you walk, you can do a squat and deadlift, you know, very simply put it.
And you just help him try and sit back. That's why you put on his shoulder blade so he gets his butt down. Yeah. I was seeing another gentleman actually there yesterday. He was deadlifting, and he wasn't tight beforehand. So a lot of people kind of do that where their arms are kind of loose, and then they jack their arms in their upper back. And so it seems like there's a lot of like in the whole chain of moving the movements. I mean, you've trained so many clients over the years. What are some common challenges that people, or what are the ways in which the setup is improper that you see commonalities?
Well, in general, any exercise or any movement, it's just like the best way is that everybody has, when you want to read and write alphabet, A, B, C, D, that's the tool. Now, how you put the ABC together, right? You can be a Shakespeare or you can be like me that doesn't spell well, right? But we all use the same tool, A, B, C, D. In fitness or lifting, the same thing applies. Everybody knows that this is the bar, this is, you know, do this, do that. But there is unbelievable variety of technique and way people lift. There are certain fundamental that I always try to teach people. Like for example, in deadlift, even when you start with the bar, I ask to wear your belt. And they say, why? It's not heavy. I said, no, I want you to learn to push your stomach muscle against the belt. And majority of people don't know that on deadlift, you're leveraging against the belt. You don't wear the belt too tight, right? And you have enough room to push your stomach against it. And this is the most important part of your deadlift, stomach. And you see a lot of deadlifters that they have a bigger stomach. And also, the heavier you are, this muscle becomes so strong, it's just like a rock, but it's big. And sometimes people might think that you're fat, but you're not. So there are so many techniques involved with this. Fundamentally, we say just keep the neutral, you know, position of your back. Don't arch too much, don't straighten your back, all those stuff. And I basically learned powerlifting from 3 great coaches and took 2 training from Louis Simmons program, which is elite fitness, and they're pretty big. And
they make a lot of the platforms and things now, like the wedges underneath.
They are, it's a different culture in powerlifting, not what you see in the gym. If you go to an actual powerlifting gym, you see that for warm-up for almost 30 minutes, we pull and push a lot of stuff. For example, the big tires that we work with it, or sled that we pull and stuff, and it's just amazing. It's not like what you see in CrossFit or squat or deadlift gym, normal. And I think any powerlifter has done that, going to a special gym for that. And these are really dingy, small gym in the what corner, and they don't have any mirror, they don't have any carpet on the floor. It's really, really different spot. Different style of lifting. So it's very different than the commercial one, okay? But fundamentally, I believe that still old style and old fitness is working. For example, you remember we all went to school, learned calisthenics and, you know, jumping up and down, jump. Those are still, when I work with somebody, they have to relearn those again. Because if you're not flexible enough, if you're not capable of getting down and standing up, doing certain bridges exercises on the floor in the beginning, you're not ready to put that bar on your back. Okay, so you have to build that foundation first before you get people to doing squat and deadlift.
Loading the spine and all that. I like how you talked about, bracing, the importance of like wearing the belt, using the stomach. A lot of people don't do that, and they kind of have this anterior pelvic tilt going on, and then they load the spine, and that's just putting a lot more pressure on that lumbar
Absolutely.
region. So that's interesting. I see a lot of people like kind of in the powerlifting raw category where they're not wearing belts and all that. But for someone getting into it, especially maybe if they're over 40, you would suggest even starting with the belt.
I really believe in using certain equipment, especially when you're older. So as far as I'm concerned, especially for deadlift, I always recommend the belt. But you have to learn how to wear that belt, because as you mentioned, if you put the belt on and make your back so tight that you can't even breathe, then we're in trouble. You have to learn how to use that sort of belt, to use it to leverage for your back, not to put a stress on your back. And I see it all the time that they wear their belt so tight, I said 2 fingers has to go in there. Okay, then you push yourself. And breathing is another issue. Most people don't know how to breathe. So if always describe that, think about the balloon, put as much air as you can into your stomach and to your lungs. Hold it. As you halfway through the lift, then you can breathe out. And most people don't even use that power of their breathing. So these are all fundamental. And that's why I built this confidence in, like today, I finished with this lady who just turned 79. And she pulled 150 pounds. And she weighed 112 pounds. I mean, if you see her, she's just so tiny. And actually, this is Johnny's mom.
Oh, really?
So after I worked with John, so she decided to come and live with us. But she's so tiny, and say, how can this lady take this much weight? So it works.
That's so amazing.
Yeah.
Do you encourage sumo or Romanian? Does it
both?
Okay.
Both.
Yeah.
Because in the beginning, it depends of how strong a person is in their legs or their back. They can develop one of their style. And when you stand Romanian, or we could say the conventional stance in deadlift, you stress mostly your back. But when you stand sumo, the stress of the back is shifted more into your leg, and because you're standing, and also you cut the distance of lifting the bar up. So usually for me is about close to 4-inch difference when I'm doing the conventional and wide stand. And that 4-inch is a difference almost like 50 pounds.
Yeah.
So I can do in sumo, I can do 50 pounds heavier than conventional.
Yeah, most people. There's some different controversy about like double overhand versus alternating grip. What are your thoughts there?
Well, people who do overhand perhaps develop their strength to be able to handle the bar, but the only reason we do the cross is because your thumbs is the weakest link on your grip. And as you're coming up, the bar comes off to your thumbs. And if you don't hold it like this, and you're holding this way, there's no room, it goes all the way. That's why we say that always. And unless people use the strap, you cannot lift heavy with the grip. It has to go CrossFit.
Right,
Yeah.
right. There's some different people talking about, I mean, once you get to elite levels that you can train, it's an imbalance.
Yep.
So like kind of alternating hands and so forth, the placement, so you're not training just preferentially one side, for example.
No. That's what we do. Actually, we every time when you do deadlift, you do 2 of this way and 2 the other way, back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah.
And then when you're maxing out, you stay with your power grip, which is usually if you're right-handed, your right hand is over. If you're left-handed, your left hand is over, because this way you're stronger.
That makes sense. Yeah, I normally go like that. But you mentioned Johnny, and maybe folks listening don't know who Johnny is. He's been a client of yours for a long time.
Johnny was 10 years old when I met him at Dominican university summer camp, and I've been working with him for 36 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, he's gonna turn 36 this year. So yeah, I've been working with him 36 years. He's a Down syndrome. At age 10, his body looks like a little 5 years old. He was very small and very tiny, didn't have a good balance, and I started working with him at Dominican Movement Laboratory. Movement Laboratory was the place for specialists like me to work with kids and grown-up who did not have good balance and good posture and good movement. And we did a lot of basic things with them. For example, crawling, creeping, hopping, leaping, all those fundamental movement, walking on balance beam and stuff like that. And then they learn push-up, calisthenic, and all the basic stuff. So yeah, I've been working with John for, as I said, 36 years, and he was interested in becoming like Arnold. Arnold
at that age, when he was 9?
Yeah, he really loved Arnold, and he has all his movies and everything. And then he pushed for lifting heavy, and my lab didn't have enough stuff, so we came to Gold's Gym and became member together September 1st, 1990.
Amazing.
And we started training together, and he became 9 times world champion, and he helped me to be 4 times world champion, breaking a few records myself.
That's amazing. And this was in push-pull? So squat,
Yes,
deadlift?
yes,
Okay.
and bench.
And bench.
Yeah.
And when he was a world champion, that was just like for age and weight, or was that in a
It
special?
was for age and weight.
That's amazing. Good for him.
Yeah.
Has any other folks with special needs, Down syndrome, movement disabilities, have you coached them, other folks?
Yes, I had a big team at the Gold Gym coming from College of Marine and working with those kids, and we had a very good team, but they were for a Special Olympic. John always lifted in open, not the Special Olympic.
Wow.
But those other kids, they lifted in a Special Olympic, and we, I think we all together, most of my team, every time my team participate, we were number 1.
That's so amazing. Wow, that's really impressive. So I worked at Gold's Gym just at front desk when I was going to College of Marin for a year in 01 to 02. And Johnny, I mean, he was always like eating his meals on time. Like it really gave him confidence and a sense of identity and things along those lines, and probably dramatically improved his quality of life and health, you know. Compared to other folks, I have had a client with Down syndrome who didn't exercise or anything, and cognitively things start to not go so well over time. I think he's really preserved his mental capacities to a high level, which is awesome.
I sort of believe in this theory that the smart brain is in a powerful body, or vice versa. I mean, you can take it every which way. But for John, being a Down syndrome and being really small and weak, when he started developing and getting stronger, he started sort of seeing the world in a different way. At age 19, he moved out of his house and went in independent living. And within 5 years, he, you know, was into this girl and that girl, and he got married and been married for 15 years now. And, you know, he's such a normal. I mean, we always emphasize over normal with John because he always says he doesn't participate much with his friends and stuff because he sees them that they're not like him. And he considers himself that more to the sort of a normal crowd. And that's why his life has been at the gym, and he's been there exactly. He's the longest employee of the gym. And they always, you know,
Recognize
that because he works for them. And so that gave him the discipline. And in general, Johnny is the most disciplined guy by himself. You should see his house, how clean and everything is in its own order. And that's one of his good things that he does. And I think it's more, that's him, because I'm very proud. I mean, I'm all over.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
Sticky notes everywhere.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
I too am like that. You bring up a good point. I think a lot of people that aren't, if fitness isn't part of their lifestyle, they view people that go to the gym like, oh, it's just for like big muscles. You're just doing this because you're weak or whatever. But really, I think a lot of us go to the gym because we like it kind of makes us stronger people, not just like physically, but mentally as well. And there's a lot of carryover to that. Now, I don't think that really comes from doing the elliptical or the treadmill, do you?
Well, in a nutshell, no. But yes, if you start going to the gym, at least you're one step ahead, you're doing this and that, absolutely. But I was training Jill, Johnny's mom, and she's she turned 79. So she was struggling with one of the ways, and I said, this is the way I want you to look at it. I said, you're gonna go and standing in front of the bar and you're lifting this 150 pounds. What I want you to think is that behind you is a big rock that you cannot climb. In front of you is a big, huge grizzly bear is coming to get you. So you have a choice to die or go through the grizzly bear. This is your grizzly bear. And she's a PhD doctor, so educated that you can't even talk normal to this lady. And she looked at me and said, I got that. And she went and she lifted. So when you do powerlifting, if you don't push yourself to the limit, then you can do elliptical, do a little bit dumbbell work. But when you do that for a few days, actually when you lifting heavy, the result and benefit is going to stay in your body for 72 hours. And she said that every time I go anywhere, I know that I can lift like that, and my posture and my behavior is totally different. And that is the essence of pushing yourself to the limit. And most people don't do that, and then they don't get good result. Very simple. Mm-hmm. And I really a true believer that you really, really push yourself, no matter what you do. And maxing out is good maybe once a month, but I teach my older people, 40-something, 5 sets of 5 reps. I don't want them to do more than that. I don't believe in high reps because it's damaging to the old joint. Mm-hmm. For example, I never have done biceps or triceps exercise because when I do bench press and when I do deadlift, these are what? Biceps, triceps exercises, right?
Yeah. And you have a nice tricep. I've seen your...
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Seriously, I do some push-up time to time, one-hand push-up and stuff like that is good, but never more than, even on bench press, I don't do more than 3 reps. Mm.
It's hard on the shoulder too.
Yeah, I had 2 shoulder surgery.
Bummer.
Yeah.
Do you use, just as a side note, I have Mark Bell's slingshot. Do you use that ever?
Yes,
okay.
I use that.
Yeah, I found that to take some of the load off the shoulder.
Absolutely.
Going back to what you were saying there is people are not pushing themselves. And I found that with myself. I've been lifting since like 95, got into powerlifting about 2 years ago. And I can always like deadlift more than I think I can. You know what I mean? The mind like sets up these limitations and so forth. And so I think even if someone doesn't want to be a power lifter, I think training for powerlifting will push you to that next level. And you'll find strength within yourself that you never knew you really had, which is pretty cool.
So you got interested in powerlifting for some reason, whatever the reason is. Yeah. But the beauty of it is that every time you go there, you want to do more. It's not like any other exercises that you've been doing. And so what if you can do, more with your dumbbell, biceps, or whatever. But when it comes to these fundamental, I call these 3 exercises, squat, bench, and deadlift are the fundamental. If you can do these 3 things, you can do whatever you want in the gym without getting hurt.
Yeah.
So, and you got interested in it because it's a powerful, right? Mm-hmm. You're lifting the heaviest weight possible. This is beautiful things for human being. We always want to do our best, right? And that best can show itself in your strength, and that's the pure strength. It's another machine. It's between you and the bar, and it's totally different. than other method of fitness training. Not that there is anything wrong with people doing elliptical or treadmill or doing lightweight, but they don't get the result that you get or I get or my 87 years old guy get.
Yeah, which is so amazing. I'm so impressed with that. So we talked about deadlifting, squatting. Any issues? I mean, I know a lot of people now are kind of talking about, mixing in unilateral stuff, one-legged stuff, front squats. How, bar position, low bar, high bar. What are some things, new client, they've been doing the fitness classes, bar classes, and they come to you and say, Homi, I just want to maintain my strength. I've never squatted before. Kind of where do you start with that?
Well, again, these are the beginners and they are good. They've been in the gym and everything, and they come to you and always they come with I want to do this, but my knee is hurting, my back is hurting, my neck is hurting, all that stuff. So what do you do with these people? So usually, if they're really determined and want to learn, I start on a Smith machine. I don't put the bar on their back. I teach them on a Smith machine how to do it because Smith machine controls everything, right?
Yeah.
So from there, then I move them to the second level of a Smith machine. We have two kinds of a Smith machine. There is one that moves forward, backward, up and down. But in the beginning, you just do the
one that's locked in.
Yeah.
It's kind of at an angle.
So if they learn that, then I bring them to free weight. But the first thing that they have to learn is I have interesting way of teaching people, which is I say that take that bar, and they have certain perception of that. And I don't tell them how to take that bar. So sometimes they put it way high on their neck, sometimes lower, sometimes they hold it in front. So with that, I work with them to basically discover what they can do with the bar. So, and then build their confidence. Usually I want them to learn first good morning before they do any squat. Good morning is that when you put the bar on your back and keep your knees soft and you bend over and coming out. So when you learn to do this part, okay, you build your confidence. Oh, I can bend and bar on my back. Now we're not getting to your knees, right? Because that's another thing. And the other method is that we do it boxer squat in the beginning. Because they want to have the surface to land. Because if you put them there and there is no place for them to stop, then is panicky and they lose their balance. So they sit and stand up. So doing this movement by just, okay, before even put the bar, sit and stand up. So I teach them because there's no way that you can get up from your seat if your shoulder is not in front of your knee.
Right.
There's no way. Even the strongest person, if I want to stand up, so my shoulder is behind, there's no way I can stand up. I have to lean forward. Now, when my shoulder is over my knee, I can come up. If it's not, there's no way. Now, imagine you put the bar on your back and you want to come up like that.
Yeah.
So I see it in the gym. There are lots of girls or guys doing a squat like that the bar is way back there and they're coming up like this. You can never convert this to a real squatting. It's a good exercise. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it.
Right.
But that fundamental, if you don't learn that from the beginning, which is a very simple technique, can you sit down without? And then the other part, as any time you want to get up, your hand has to be like this. And the same concept in deadlift. If your shoulder is way back, you cannot lift that. You lift the bar, but then you cannot lift heavy. You got to be really in a strict controlled posture that your shoulder, your grip is right over the bar, not behind it, not over it. So these are the things that I teach, and they build their confidence. They say, oh, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
So that's my way of teaching it.
That's awesome. Yeah, starting with the box squats and then with good mornings. I mean, I've seen you do that with clients, and I think a lot of people are scared of that. Because, oh my gosh, you're loading up the spine, but you're really teaching them to fire the glutes too and the hamstrings?
Yeah, and fundamentally, even we start the 12 weeks program on powerlifting. You never do squat before you learn how to do good morning. That's the first part.
Good.
And it's your warm up. You take the bar, you do the good morning warm up, and then you start with good morning squat. So good morning squat is another way that you develop your confidence. The good morning squat is that you bend over, now sit on the box, stand up. So this combination built not only strength, but it built your confidence that you can handle the bar. So that's what I do.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I'll have to try that. I personally, in high school football, we did good mornings and a lot of like stiff-legged deadlifts, things like that, which I do like. And I did that on Saturday. My hamstrings and glutes are still sore. They were sore all week because I hadn't done them, and we use bands to control the movement. With the good mornings and the stiff-legged, some people I see just like, if this was my hip, right? They just kind of like bent, here's my upper body, they just kind of bend like this. But do you want your butt to kind of pivot back a little bit? Like if I'm doing a good morning, would I want to kind of lean back or like that? So that activates more of the...
Technically, you're absolutely right. But the point is that you want to learn how to basically bend over without locking your knees and not distressing your back, right? So if you lock your knees, okay, and do 45-degree bend over, you are putting so much stress on your spine and your lower back. So you want to, number one, remember not to lock your knees. The other thing is that they always say that think that there is a seat behind you, you want to sit. Okay, so that way, if you're standing up and you want to sit, you don't sit this way, right? You sit this way. And most people in the gym, they get under the bar and they go like this. They have to learn to go this way. So push the hip, your butt back, and that is the safest way to do it. So,
but people are scared of that because they're loading their spine. So they want this very vertical spine, which then you can affect your knees and everything along those. I see. God, that's awesome.
But the simple part of it is that because they don't learn from a good coach, okay, so 90% of people, when they do a squat, they bend their knees first. And as soon as I look at it, I know that whoever taught them didn't know what the squat is. Because you look at the person, if their hip is not moving first, they don't know the squat. So in the squat movement, you have to start here, not here. And check it out in gym, you see people when they do a squat, 90% of them are squatting with their knees first movement. If the knee move first, you know
they weren't taught right. And that can be a hard habit to break, I can imagine. Especially if you've been doing it for a long time. And
I mean, it's just like I coach swimming for many years. So I would love to have a person who doesn't know how to swim. Because that way they don't have any bad habit. But people come in with that habit and you want to break that, that's the hardest thing. You're right.
It's funny you bring that up. That was something I wanted to talk about. It's kind of the neurology. We think about when we're doing squatting, we're deadlifting with these Olympic style lifts that it's all the muscles that we're training, but it's the central nervous system. Is that a big part of it?
Well, neuromuscular training is without combining these two things, I mean, you cannot go anywhere. And the most important part of it is that when you decide to do anything, what happens? If you want to get up right now, you send a message to your body to get up, right? So the first order comes from your brain, send the neuron to do the function, right? So there's no way that somebody says that, oh, I can do all this stuff without, paying attention to my nerve system and how it behaves and how I feel. Okay, so combination, the whole body works. And also, one of the things that I always say that in powerlifting, if you don't lift with your head, you're not lifting. And when I explain, I said, okay, number one, in your head, you're talking to the weight and bar. You said, I'm coming, get you, all those little things but the other thing is that you prepare your brain. Is that the story about the grizzly bear is coming at you and a rock? Because you're attempting something so powerful, so you want to get yourself, all your nerve ready to go. You're ready for fighting. You're not going to do just 100 reps of whatever. You're going to do your best lift, right? So you have to engage everything. And I always say that at the end of your lift, if you don't see a star or almost passing out, you didn't lift your maximum. You just lift something was comfortable for you. You have to see those stars.
That's great. Now, you recommend, again, maxing out to that level once a month for people?
Once a month, yeah.
Yeah. As a way to kind of just make sure you're kind of blowing out the pipes, if you will, for lack of a better analogy.
And maxing out in the gym is different than maxing out for competition. For people who start, it's a good thing that every now and then they see how much they can do. But I always say start with 5 sets of 5 reps. So that theory is very simple. You warm up with the weight that you're comfortable. You add 10%, you do 5 reps. If you can do it, you add another 10%. You do 5 reps. So as you're going up, basically from the bar, you add 25% to every 10% that add, right?
Right.
So 5 times you add 50% of that weight. So when you do the first time, next time come and start from the next level. So today you start with 45, next day or next time that you do it, add 10%, that's your first rep.
I see.
Okay?
That makes sense. Yeah.
That way you build up, and usually the first 12 weeks you jump up very fast. And when you do that 12 weeks program of 5 reps, then you evaluate yourself on maxing out. And why do I say 5 sets of 5 reps? Because altogether, when I'm doing my own powerlifting, we don't do more than maximum 30 reps altogether. We start with the bar. When I'm finishing with the weight that I designed for myself for that day, it's about maximum 30 reps. Divided on a squat, we do only 2 reps. On deadlift, we do 1 reps. As you're adding weight, so you see that it's not that many reps, but you do one program like that, like my average is 400 pounds for my deadlift. So I start with the bar, then I add 50, right? Then I add another 50, I add another 50, another 50. It's about 7 to 8 reps to my 400. I'm not doing 100 reps with the bar or that. So that way you conserve your energy and your power, and you can lift heavy weight.
Such a good point. And I think a lot of people like myself, young men, we learn from Muscular and Development magazine, Men's Fitness, where it's a lot of these 6 sets of 8 to 12, because bodybuilding is kind of like, it's like just crush the muscle. And then we apply that same thinking to deadlifting. And a lot of people, like I ended up getting hurt because it was just like too much volume. And I find with powerlifting, like doing what you're saying is you're really kind of conserving yourself for that top effort, that max effort, right? And so it's not necessarily a lot of volume or sets and reps. But maybe there's a lot of sets, but the reps are not that much. So it's not like, you're not just totally beating the muscle up and having joint injuries. And
in actual powerlifting, if you look at all the manual, like I follow Louis' program. Squat is 2 reps, bench is 3, and deadlift is only 1 rep. But every time you lift that way, you load 10%. So that way you're not doing too many repetition or too many lifting. We're talking about powerlifting. It's different than when those magazines that tell you for bodybuilding, because in order to make your muscle big, you need to do a lot of volume. And then, comparing powerlifting to Olympic lifting and to bodybuilding, all these 3 sports are really neck and neck. But they've done a study and took 3 guys, 1 Olympic lifter, 1 bodybuilder, and 1 powerlifter. So they did the 225-pound squat. In one certain time, they give them 10 minutes to see how many reps they can do. So those people who have the habit of reps, Olympic lifting doing 5 reps, powerlifting doing 1 reps, and bodybuilders do a lot of reps. Like, do you think which one would have been the winner? The winner was the powerlifter. Could do more reps than any other two because of the strength in his muscles, given time in 10 minutes. So that was one study. Overall, my understanding is that for older people, powerlifting is much better because our joint loses its synovial fluid by aging. So the lubricant that you young people have there, that you can do 100 reps without feeling it, we feel it in 10 reps. Therefore, you should do less rep, but heavier weight to balance it.
That makes sense. Yeah, I love that approach. I mean, I just turned 36, and I noticed that with bicep curls, different tricep exercises that I used to do in my 20s, I can't do the volume there. And so it's like I'd rather just, and it kind of summarizes everything we've been talking about now. And powerlifting is just a much more efficient way to exercise, right? In terms of like the amount of time that you need to spend in the gym. And like you said, for 72 hours, particularly if you're maxing out, you're getting the benefits, right? Yep. You can burn more fat in a 45-minute window on an elliptical, but that's where it ends. And the fat burning goes on if you squat and deadlift for hours and days.
The numbers that on elliptical to tell you that, okay, how much calorie you burn and everything, and also that theoretically that we say, oh, you stay 45 minutes or 1 hour, this is exactly what my son is doing, you burn a lot of fat. But when you finish, it's done. But when you're lifting heaviest weight possible for 72 hours that your muscle has to repair, get food to repair all those, because when you're lifting heavy, and one of the major reasons you get sore is because the muscle fibers, they tear. The only way you get bigger because you stretch and pull those muscle fibers, that they actually breaks and they have internal bleeding. When you look at the physiology of how the growth happened. So that is micro, it's very small, it's not really, you're not really bleeding, but that's why they say drink protein or whatever. But the funny thing is that when you do lifting heavy, it stays, your body needs 72 hours to repair it, to take care of you. But when you finish your 45 minutes on elliptical, you're done. That's a big difference.
Yeah. It's just a concept people need to grasp, and we talk about it over and over again, I think, in the fitness industry, because come January 1st, it's mid-December as we record this, everyone's going to be on the treadmill, the elliptical, the exercise bike, and it's because they can see, I burned 700 calories. And it's like, well, okay, like you said. Yeah.
If I tell you that I almost never do aerobic. Sometimes I do 5 to 10 minutes on the bike to warm up my leg when I'm doing my squat, other than especially bike. Other than that, I almost never do any aerobic. I eat whatever I want. I drink 1 or 2, sometimes 3, depends if I'm in a party or something. I mean, for the last 30 years, I kept my weight and my body and my strength the same way. No diet, nothing. Never do aerobic.
Good for you.
Actually, I can't even walk more than 10 minutes because of my knee. So I have to go for knee replacement, but I still can do 300-pound squat without having any problem. So the value of doing high-level repeated movement to coming to do the most weight that you can lift. For older people, I think that doing 15 reps or 5 sets of deadlift heavy is much better than spending 2 hours on those machines. That's what I believe.
I agree. Now, with your leg or with your knee, are you going to get surgery on it?
Actually, funny thing is that the last 10 years, they say, is your bone on bone. After my last surgery on my knee, it was 14 years ago. And they say, the next time is knee replacement. So I'm sort of fighting it.
Yeah.
Because I have this theory that if the muscles of my quadriceps and my lower part of my leg and calves are strong, they can take the pressure off my knee. All I have to do, don't do repeated movement. Don't go for a long walk. Don't get on the bike for hours, because I was trying for a triathlon and this knee happened to me. So the point is, I have to do it. I might do it next year, but I decided, the only reason I'm holding back is next year I turn 70 and I want to do one more competition.
Set the record.
Set the record. Because after that, for when you have a knee replacement, you're not supposed to lift too heavy.
Forever?
Basically forever, because it's wear and tear happen, and also you cannot go past below the 90 degree for your knee. So.
And you need to do that for powerlifting.
Correct.
So do one more big competition. Yeah, good for you. That's amazing. You know, Chris Bell, are you familiar with marketing?
Yes.
So Chris, he has a hip replacement.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
so
that's one of the side effects of heavy lifting, and I was going to get to that. You know, if you do too much, like I see a lot of people like Mark, they did a lot of competition, they did over, and they didn't do simple stuff, which was flexibility, which was stretching the muscle, which was using band, which was doing sissy stuff that we call it. So what happens, wear and tear happens in your big muscles, and then you have problem with it. My problem with my shoulder and my knee is part genetic and part because of overuse. But this all happened with 3 motorcycle accidents. I broke the leg and everything, and also shoulder because of repeated injury of swimming. And then 30 years later, I'm paying the price for it.
Sure,
So, yeah.
I get that. Gosh, we could talk all day about this, Homi. When it comes to nutrition, you've seen a lot of diets come and go. And in fact, when I first learned about low carb, high fat, like ketogenic style diets, it was at Gold's Gym. Do you remember Greg? I'm trying to blank on his last name. He won a lot of NPC competitions back in the early 2000s. He lived right here in Santa Fe. Really, his delts and pecs were amazing. And then there was another guy, I think his name was John, and he was big into keto. He was kind of a taller 6'4".
In bodybuilding?
Yeah, he was a bodybuilder. He was a little bit taller. This was 15, 20 years ago. I don't know.
I know a lot of people face-wise, but I forget names. Because I remember you, I remember your face, but I really didn't remember your name. So maybe if I see him, say, oh yeah, and we know each other. To be honest with you, Tony D, one time I was helping somebody and she said, Homi, anytime you stand on a stage, you can win the competition. You don't need to do all this stuff. So that was a compliment. The point is, nutrition is 90% of your fitness. I don't care how many hours you put in the gym, if you don't eat right, and we call it the number of calories your body consumes per day and the number of calories you burn. If they are not balanced, you either get fat or you lose weight. Very simple, right? So, but certain food has a different effect on different people. In general, human being, us, we're a fruit eater first. The first thing is fruit, number one, because we evolved like a few million years, but the first thing was available for us was fruit and nuts and vegetables, and then occasionally we had a little bit meat. It wasn't hunter-gatherer, it was gatherer-hunter. People make mistakes. So now our human body evolves to eat until we basically burst. That is in our head. We cannot eat to think that, oh, the food is in the refrigerator. It's in our DNA, it's engraved. So and that's the biggest problem that everybody has. They have a lot of food available, and after 1 hour, your stomach says, oh, you didn't eat much, go eat again. Now, and the biggest other problem is that we are designed to eat the highest calorie possible. Fat is number one, because we knew that we're going to go to a cold winter and you cannot find food. So our human body, although we're modern, but only last 100 years we start having refrigerator and have food. Before we had to go to the field, work so hard, and then come home to eat food. So you put so many hours, right, to burn calorie, and then you could eat a big piece of bread and butter or whatever, no problem. But nowadays, most people are sitting job. How many calories on average a person burns an hour? When you look at it, if you eat more than 2,000 calories, you're gonna get fat. And 2,000 calories, you have a bag of chips is like 500 calories.
Right.
So majority of people don't pay attention to fundamental of nutrition, and then they get to trouble.
So do you like people to track their macros and calories?
Yes, especially if they're supposed to lose weight, they need to know what they're doing. I mean, if you want to go to, let's say I want to go to Petaluma. Now, if I don't have a map that how I'm going to take 10 here, 10 there, just go outside, I don't know where I'm going, right? The same thing is with people who decide to lose weight. They have to know how many calories their body burns a day, how they can increase that calorie burning, and then they eat correctly to have a deficit. Right now, average person, let's say that they need 1,800 to 2,500 calories, men and women, for not doing anything specifically. Now, if you add 200-300 calorie burnout from workout, then you can design a program for yourself to follow it like that. There's a 5 meal a day, 6 meal a day, or doing like my son is doing. He eats one big meal, 16 hours fasting, then he eats another big meal, and now he does 24 hours fasting. And then he goes to gym and he does 3 workouts a day. So he wants to lose 100 pounds. This guy was really, really big and overweight. But is that going to be able to maintain for the rest of his life? Okay, that's why I believe diet works when you're doing it, but if you don't do it, then diet doesn't work.
Okay.
And the best thing is being sort of into a routine and follow a program. Okay, whatever program is. If that doesn't work for you, go to the next things. Right now, every night we had rice.
Yeah.
And Persian make rice so well that at the bottom of it is a fried rice. It's very crunchy, very delicious. So we had this food every night, right? I was hovering around 150. And then my wife went to this diet because of my son was pushing it. So for a whole week that I didn't have that rice, I dropped 5 pounds without even knowing it.
Wow.
It's just like because I didn't have that fatty part of the rice. See, very simple. If you pay attention, and I wasn't dieting or I wasn't even care, where's my weight? I'm good. You know, I don't even, maybe once a month I might get on that scale. Okay, I pay attention to my clothes. If it's fitting me, I'm good. So nutrition, I believe, is 90% of your fitness.
Yeah.
If you don't follow it, you're in trouble.
Big time.
Yeah.
Where do you stand on protein for people? And what do you personally do? I mean, how much, do you have like a protein target you hit, or you just go based upon your activity and everything?
There was time that I pay attention, and they say that if you're 60 kilogram, which is 140 some pound, then you need, for each kilogram, you need a certain amount of protein. There's a formula, right?
Yeah.
So if you look at it in general, in American diet, we have too much protein. We have too much sugar, we have too much everything. So if you're a bodybuilder and you measure everything, maybe protein works for you, but I truly don't really believe that powders, which is not a real food, can work on average body unless you do bodybuilding and also you juice. Without that, very, very hard. I haven't seen, okay? And most people, they tell you, oh no, I'm clean, I don't do it, you know. But if you see somebody is overgrown, you know, because human body has a normal capacity of putting normal muscles. If you see that even sometimes I look at myself, I am big. I got big for my size, but it's not that big that we have seen it, right?
Right.
It's a really, fundamentally you can see that they have a big muscle, So protein, for average people, unless like keto's program that I see it, oh wow, when you take sugar out, when you take starch out, when you take too much carbohydrate, especially from whatever that has carbohydrate, and you follow that, it works. But again, for how long can you do that? How many days you can go? In 90s and beginning of 2000, I was working with this program giving, for powerlifter, we give 2 weeks ketos, 2 weeks normal eating. And you have the highest result because people could looking forward to that. And when you get too close to competition, you could go, that they say carb loading for runners and marathon stuff. It's really scientific. I believe in that. But other than that, for average Joe, it's a very hard thing to follow. How many grams of protein do I need? 100? Average 100 to 150. It depends on what you're doing is good. But how you can get that 150? Are you measuring it? Where are you getting that? I eat on average 10 eggs a day. That's I have 2 breakfasts, but only 5 yolk. So, and everyone said, you eat 10 eggs? Yeah, doesn't have that many calories.
Yeah.
You think about it,
Right.
right? And I get my protein from eggs because it's the best way that you can get your protein. Although in industry, they talk about the protein from milk, which is another way. But it didn't work for me.
Yeah. We have backyard chickens in Seattle, so sometimes I'll have 8 to 10 eggs a day too. It totally depends. That's awesome. You mentioned juice or steroids or gear. Because you've been at that Gold's Gym now for quite a while, over 30 years. Have you seen some people come and go? Because I feel like back when I was training there, late 90s, early 2000s, there was a lot of bigger bodybuilders. I haven't seen them. It seems like their shelf life, if you will, is shorter because, they're...
I've seen so many people who juice and then they got big, right? And then they didn't maintain, then they got fat. And when I look at them and they look at me, we sort of eye each other because I did certain juicing at the back, way back there, because I wanted to know what I'm doing and what it works and what not. The effect of steroid is fantastic. If you do it smart, if you do it right, it works for a period of time. But in the long run, if you don't eat right, no matter what kind of a steroid you're using or other stuff like there's
SARMs and GH.
It works. But for how long? And what is going to happen to your internal organ? Do you see most bodybuilders have a big, huge stomach?
Yeah.
Because when you take a steroid, the organs get bigger and bigger and bigger. That's another side effect, especially when they start at a very young age, right? So that's one of the problems with using a steroid. And most people cannot maintain that, so they stop and then they get fat. And you see them, very often you see them, what happened? He had such a great body, but what happened to him? So that's the reason. And for some people, right now, there are competition in powerlifting that they don't test you. And there are some that they say we test. But they cannot test everybody because it's very expensive. And in my experience, I think average minimum 10 to 20% of people who claim that they are clean, some way or not, they use it at certain times. And if you do it under the prescription from a doctor and do the blood work every 3 months, maybe for older people, it's really beneficial. But not to the amount of the steroid they get to get so huge and big.
Yeah.
But for young people before 25, 30, I really say that don't ever do it because your internal organs get big. That's a danger.
Yeah, it is dangerous. Yeah, I mean, and at that age, the hormones are so high anyway, but it is the age that, especially, you know, young men, there's a perception you got to be big and muscular, so a lot of people get into it and stuff like that. But yeah, some of the people that I knew for sure were juicing late 90s, early 2000s, like I haven't seen them in the gym recently when I go. So you wonder what happened. Did they just get out of lifting weights? Did they have health issues as a result of it? It's interesting to see kind of.
Some of them have anger issue because I had a friend who was a plumber, and he said, you know, when I was taking, I thought everybody is a double S, but then I realized after I quit you, it was me that I felt that way, because it creates something in the brain of the user that they get really aggressive, and after a while they don't like it. You know, it's a form of addiction, and I see how they messed up. I have a friend, I mean, I really like him, and he's such a soft guy, but he's messing up his life so bad, and every time we talk about it, I said, dude, look what you're doing, you know? So, but it's another form of addiction for some people, and they can't put it away, you know, put it away, say, that's enough, I got it. And those people who use, and in our gym, we don't see them anymore because I think the fashion has changed in its own merit. We do a lot of milder workout and a little bit crazier stuff that they're jumping up and down, especially when I see people jump on the boxes. I want to go and really, really slap whoever, you know, created that exercise. And when they ask me why, I always ask, what is sports you jump on something? In any sport you jump, but you always land on the floor. Learn from the box to jump down. Learn that. Because when you're jumping up, you're loading so much of your knees because you're landing like this, right? Your knees into your chest, right?
Yeah.
But when you jump off that, you have to control and land without getting hurt. Most athletes in basketball, in football, when they land, they break something, not when they jump, right? So who said jumping on something, jump over something good, but why are you jumping on the box? That's the dumbest exercise you can do. I'm sorry, I mean, I see it all the time in our gym. They actually bought these big boxes, but I teach my people to jump off. If you jump off without making any noise, that is the control and power in your body, not jumping on something.
Right. That totally makes sense. Yeah. Gosh, this is so great, homie. I think we've covered quite a bit. Well, how can folks connect with you? I mean, if they're in the North Bay area, you see clients, you know, all over the place, and especially at Gold's, right? Or
well, basically, I'm in this gym.
Okay.
You know, which is SF Fitness in Marine, and that's my center, and you can contact me there, and also you can basically email.
Okay.
It's homifit at comcast.net.
Okay. I'll put a link, you know, in the show notes and everything like that. Yeah. Do you see yourself, I mean, lifting to the day you die, basically, forever?
Yeah, because my role model now is my client. He's 87 years old. This March is going to be 88. I want to look like him and lift like him when I'm 88 years old. So another 18 years at least, if I last that long.
Good for you. That's so amazing. And Tony D, she's been there for a while. What,
yes.
Does she squat and deadlift and things? I know she.
No. Okay. Tony, for whatever reason, she does the other side of the fitness, which is fantastic. She does teach a lot of aerobic, and she does a lot of sort of repeating and timing. She times for her client how many times a person does one movement in 1 minute or things. That's another method. And yeah, she's very successful, and she stays in fantastic shape. As you see, she hasn't changed her body, and she's one of those people that all these years that I know her, she hasn't changed.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, she's been fit. I remember her teaching. My mom would take her classes like in the 90s, and she's still like super good shape and everything. Is she in her 60s now?
She is 60. Yeah, she's 10 years younger than me.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think she's going to turn 60 soon, if it's not yet.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So if someone wanted to learn powerlifting, I get this question a lot, like on Instagram, like, what do I look for in a coach or a trainer? And I always tell them a CSCS is good, a Certified Strength and Conditioning Specialist. You mentioned it, learning from the folks over at Elite Lifts. Was that it?
Elite Fitness. Unfortunately, we don't have anything here, but there are 2-3 gyms that in Bay Area emphasize over powerlifting. One of them is this gym in Concord. That's because I went there a few times. They're perfect people, and they've supervised you. That's the difference. I think Mark Bell has his gym in Sacramento. Unfortunately, if you are not certified powerlifter coach and you have learned other stuff, you may miss some of those. For example, my first certification is Olympic lifting. I did it with Jimmy Schmidt, the head of the Olympic. He was the national coach for United States team. So, although I learned the basic back from my father, who was a Olympic lifter, but Jimmy Schmidt and the courses I took with them, I certified. And then I took the certification with Louis Simmons through one of the coaches. So the point is that you can learn basic stuff, but you really, really want to find out who can teach you actual powerlifting. People who have done competition, and also look for person who has certification for powerlifting.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how many competitions would you say is good a year? If someone just wants to maintain high level of fitness, but they don't want to be a pro or whatever, like a couple competitions a year, is that?
Maximum. Even, as a novice, you may do 2-3, and then after that back off, because too many competition, you're going to pay a big price, because overloading and maxing all the time for competition, because if you do 2 competition a year, you are in 16 weeks training 2 times.
Yeah.
And going up, maxing out it's huge, and I say, maximum 1 competition, maybe 2.
Couple final questions here. If there's just one exercise, you're relegated to just doing one thing for the rest of your life, what exercise would that be?
Just one exercise?
Yeah. If
clean and jerk.
Okay.
It's everything.
Yeah. Deadlift, squat, everything.
Everything. Clean and jerk is the king. You only learn that, just do one exercise. Or you can do one hand clean and snatch, or just a snatch. That's a good, with the dumbbell. That's a good one too.
That's awesome. If you're stranded on a desert island, what's one food that you just couldn't live without? A food or a supplement?
Wow. Food.
Something that you think is kind of healthy, or a secret. Is there anything that you eat, any dish, any supplement, something that you kind of attribute to your success?
Eggs.
You said
that's the only thing. That's fundamental for me. You have eggs, you have everything.
Yeah, I agree. Cholesterol, protein, good fat.
Eggs doesn't have cholesterol. I can eat 18 eggs and
doesn't budge your cholesterol numbers. Yeah,
that's the mistake.
Yeah, that was a mistake in rats. I think
it was. There are lots of mistakes. it's actually a good cholesterol that your body needs to fight the bad cholesterol. Okay, so that's eggs is the only food that I think I can
Yeah. Final question here. If you were to meet with a politician, we see childhood obesity is skyrocketing. 70% of American adults are overweight or obese. If you were to talk to a politician, do you think it's lack of movement? Do you think it's the food? What sort of...
Put the highest tax on sugar, and anything has sugar. The problem is sugar in our diet. Believe me, if you don't have any sugar in your diet, you don't have any problem. And one of the problems is that they allow too much sugar in anything. You look at milk, 13 grams of sugar in 1 cup of milk. Why? because you can't take the taste of a real raw milk. So sugar would be something that I say, and seriously, sugar is the only thing that I would say, please do something about it.
Yeah. There's sugar everywhere, even like health food. You go to like, gosh, what's the natural market that's popular around here? Good Earth?
Yeah.
You go to Good Earth and get like a natural kombucha. It's good for your gut, right?
Yeah.
19 grams of sugar. It's crazy.
They add sugar because it tastes good. Otherwise, if you make it at home and you don't put sugar, you say, why whatever you're making, hamburger doesn't taste the same way that the hamburger, because they add sugar. In everything they add sugar nowadays for you to eat more and want it more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scary. Do you ever have like carbs post-workout? Some people are into that. This is my drink that for workout, seriously, when I go for my 12 week, I make green tea and add some like watermelon or banana and some of those stuff, and creatine. Oh, creatine. Yeah.
Put 5 grams and make a drink for myself and go to the gym. And I sip it through my workout. I don't add any protein because I had my 10 eggs, so I have first breakfast and then after my workout I have my half of the other 5 eggs. So no, that's my drink.
That's awesome. Yeah. Good for you. Homie, really appreciate you coming on. Thanks for all that you do.
Thank you for having me.
I think you've changed the lives of a lot of people with your training and your inspiration, your clients. I mean, like when I was seeing, I think it was in July when you were training someone that was appeared to be in their 70s, deadlifting a young woman. I was just like, wow, what's my excuse? So I think that's really inspiring. We need more of that, because sometimes you go to the gym, you see people and they're just doing this, they're kind of looking around. There's no like effort going into it. And again, your last name, we'll put it in the show notes, but your last name for if folks want to Google you?
Shivaie.
Shivaie, okay.
Shivaie. And my full actual name is Homayun.
Homayun, okay. Nice, I like that. Homie, really appreciate you coming on. Thanks for tuning in all the way, guys. And I'll put links where you can contact Homie in the YouTube description below. I'll follow your comments. What do you think of this interview? If you have a friend, family member, someone you care about that would benefit, please share this content with them. And if you enjoyed it, hit that like button. We'll catch you on the next show. Thanks, guys.